They had Neil Armstrong's toothbrush, the guy who landed on the moon. They had his toothbrush there in a glass case. Now, I wouldn't make that up. It's too stupid to make up. Underneath the toothbrush, it said, "On loan from Neil Armstrong."
People think Jerry Seinfeld's greatest achievement was creating Seinfeld. It wasn't. His greatest achievement was making obsessive perfectionism look completely ordinary, because the man who built the biggest sitcom in television history still writes jokes the exact same way he did in 1975, and after 50 years, he still isn't satisfied. That's the real Jerry Seinfeld. But very few people know Jerry. Jerry Seinfeld was born in Brooklyn in 1954. He was raised on Long Island. His father collected jokes that he heard while serving in World War II. He wasn't a performer. He was a sign maker who stored jokes in a box and made his family laugh at dinner. His mother recounts Seinfeld as a boy who was obsessed with watching television that she got rid of the family's television set. He absorbed everything. The rhythms of the commercials, the timing of laugh tracks. He wasn't just watching for entertainment. He was studying them, taking notes inside his head about what landed and what didn't.
I thought I was getting glasses because I couldn't tell what my parents looked like. Because every time I'd ask my mother to buy me something, she'd say, "What do I look like, a bank?"
As a high school student who was not popular, he discovered that passing the occasional note in the classroom would get laughs. That detail matters because he wasn't the class clown performing for the room. He was finding small specific ways to make people laugh and noticing what worked. Now, most people imagine comedians getting better through talent and experience. Jerry Seinfeld didn't. He worked with a sledgehammer for $25 a day before his big break. Manual labor because stand-up in the late 70s didn't pay enough to live on, and he needed to eat while he worked on the thing he actually cared about. And all while he was swinging that sledgehammer, he was writing every day. By the early 1980s, audiences started responding, and what they were responding to was something specific. Jerry Seinfeld didn't do impressions. He didn't do political material. He observed. That was the whole act.
I'm just glad to be a part of what's going on, you know, here on planet Earth.
He watched the world with the same analytical attention he developed watching his father at dinner and studying comedy shows as a kid. And then he brought those observations to a microphone with total precision. The reason observational comedy looks easy is because it sounds like things you already know. The reason it's actually hard is because the gap between noticing something and making it funny with exactly the right words, in exactly the right order, with exactly the right timing is enormous. Most people can notice, but very few can execute. To prepare for his first appearance on The Tonight Show, Jerry practiced his routine 200 times. A 5-minute set, yet 200 practice runs for one television appearance. Now that was 1981, 5 years after his first open mic. Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David met at a birthday party for stand-up and a mutual friend, Carol. David wrote some jokes for her to tell guests, but when she got too drunk to perform, Seinfeld read David's jokes. They got along and found they had a similar comic sensibility, particularly an obsession with the routines of everyday life. The partnership made sense immediately because they were different in exactly the right ways. Larry David notices the absurdity. He finds the social contradiction, the petty injustice, and he can't let it go.
You're in bed at night, somebody calls, they want to go out, you're like, "Are you out of your mind? Do you know where I am right now? I'm in the bed!"
Jerry structures it. He takes the raw material and finds the architecture underneath it, the way to arrange the words so the laugh lands in exactly the right place. He's the engineer in a partnership with someone who's more of an anarchist. Larry found the premise and Jerry refined it. The combination of those two specific minds is what produced the most influential sitcom ever made. Now, getting the show made was not a smooth process. In the history of pilot reports, Seinfeld has got to be one of the worst of all time. You see, weak was the word NBC used for the pilot. The initial test audiences were largely negative. Feedback collected after the pilot described the supporting characters as unlikable, and many viewers said they wouldn't be interested in watching some episodes. A few NBC executives, most notably Rick Ludwin, who oversaw late-night programming, saw potential. Ludwin used part of his department's budget, originally set aside for network specials, to fund 4 additional episodes. You see, 4 episodes, that's the difference between Seinfeld existing and not existing. Throughout seasons 2 and 3, the show continued to struggle for ratings, and its producers never felt totally secure about their future at NBC. The show that finished with 76 million people watching the finale spent its first 3 seasons not knowing if it would get renewed. What protected it through all of that uncertainty was the identity Jerry and Larry refused to compromise. There was no hugging, no learning, characters who were allowed to be selfish, petty, and completely unrepentant. No sentimental lessons at the end of episodes, and no growth arcs. Every single episode episode of Seinfeld at its best feels like it was engineered rather than written, because it was. Here's what most people don't see when they watch Jerry Seinfeld perform. The relaxed conversational delivery is the product of an almost obsessive level of preparation and refinement. He's not wandering through material in real time. He's executing a plan he has tested dozens or hundreds of times, with every pause calculated, and every word chosen for its specific weight. He talks about trying to find the perfect connection between two parts of the joke. The pause matters as much as the word. The silence between the setup and the punchline is as carefully constructed as anything that gets said out loud. Like an engineer, he studies the structure of a joke to uncover why it works or doesn't. Most people assume great comedians are just naturally funny in the moment. What they're actually watching is the result of hundreds of iterations, most of which happen in small clubs in front of a small audience. He still shows up at small comedy clubs unannounced with a couple of note cards, testing material for future paid gigs. Not because he needs the stage time, but because the testing never stops. Now, when Seinfeld ended in 1988 at its absolute peak, most people assumed he transitioned into something else, maybe movies or producing, the kind of things successful people do when they've already won. But he went back to stand-up, not as a nostalgia tour, as a full return to the new work, new material, and small clubs. In September 2017, Netflix aired Jerry Before Seinfeld, showing the comedy icon revisiting his early jokes at Manhattan's comic strip club, where he owned his routine in the 1970s. Then 23 Hours to Kill in 2020, his first special of entirely new material in 20 years. Then a book collecting 45 years of legal pads, then touring again. The $1 billion didn't just change the process. You see his work ethic and you understand why he will never stop working, because the work was never about the money or the fame. It was about understanding why people laugh, and that problem is never fully solved. Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee looks like a casual interview show. Look closer and it's a masterclass in comedy philosophy that Seinfeld didn't advertise as one. In those conversations, you're watching comedians talk to each other the way they actually think, not performing for an audience. And in almost every episode, what comes through is the same thing: the obsession with the work, the years spent on single ideas. Seinfeld ended in 1998, and it is still in heavy rotation globally. Most people explain this with nostalgia. That's the wrong explanation. The show works because Jerry and Larry built it on material that doesn't age. No topical references that require explanation. Human behavior doesn't change. The anxiety of a social situation you can't escape. That material was good in 1992, and it's good now for the same reason. Jerry Seinfeld spent years engineering jokes that were structurally sound rather than topically funny. Now, here's the actual argument. You see, most comedians chase laughs. Jerry Seinfeld studies them. Most performers rely on personality. Jerry relies on systems, the daily writing sessions, the months spent on a single joke. He is less artist in the romantic sense, more engineer, which doesn't sound like a compliant, but is actually the highest one available, because engineering is harder than inspiration. Jerry Seinfeld built that, and the fact that none of it ever made him want to stop doing the work. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one.